Bonjour, je vais partager un livre très intéressant avec vous aujourd'hui. Le livre s'appelle Look What Came from France, écrit par Miles Harvey. Il y a beaucoup de choses qui viennent de la France. Interesting inventions, advancements in transportation, new games, new kitchen things, and so much more. Mais premièrement, je pense que c'est important d'apprendre les renseignements généraux de la France. But first, I think it's important for you to learn some general information about France. La France est un pays dans l'Europe. France is a country located on the continent of Europe. La capitale de la France est la ville de Paris. Paris is the capital city of France. To give you an idea of the size, if you look at a map of the United States, it is smaller than the state of Texas, so way smaller than here. La France is surrounded by l'Angleterre, England, la Belgique, Belgium, le Luxembourg, Luxembourg, l'Allemagne, Germany, la Suisse, Switzerland, l'Italie, Italy, et l'Espagne, Spain. To the south, la mer Méditerranée, the Mediterranean Sea, et le Bay de Biscay et la Manche, and the Bay of Biscay in the English Channel, opening up into the much larger Atlantic Ocean. In the south and west of France, you will see many beautiful vineyards. A vineyard is a place where grapes are grown. In French, the word for grapes is les raisins. In the north of France, it is much greener. You will see fields and meadows, and oftentimes farmers growing wheat and keeping cows. In the south of France, the Alps mountains are right next to the Mediterranean Sea. The view from up in the mountains is amazingly beautiful. I bet you recognize this famous monument. The Eiffel Tower is in the city of Paris. Paris is the capital city of France, as well as its biggest city. In big cities like Paris, just like big cities here, most people live in apartments and the streets are crowded and busy. France also has many small towns and villages which are very old. They are filled with colorful houses built close together on very narrow streets. I hope you enjoyed learning some general information about the country of France. And now it's back to our livre. Did you know the Statue of Liberty was made in France? It was a gift from the people of France to us here in the United States. The Statue of Liberty is not the only cool thing that came from France, though. In fact, many of the foods we eat, the clothes we wear, and the tools we use were invented in this amazing country. Let's take a look. Does your home have wallpaper? Well, if it does, you have the French to thank for that. They came up with this great idea about 500 years ago. Also, about 200 years ago, a Frenchman created the first parachute. He tested it by jumping out of a hot air balloon high in the sky. Many people were shocked that he landed safely. In 1816, a Frenchman came up with the idea of the stethoscope. This tool allows doctors to listen to people's heartbeats. Also, in 1824, a man named Louis Braille from France created a special kind of writing that allows blind people to read. It uses groups of raised dots that stand for letters of the alphabet. He was only 15 years old when he came up with this amazing idea. More than 150 years ago, two Frenchmen invented photography. This photograph, the world's first, was taken from one of their workshop windows. You can see photographs have come a long way since then. French people really love to eat cheese, le fromage. That must be why there are over 400 different types of cheese in France. Some of the famous types of cheese that come from there are Brie et Camembert. French people also enjoy eating les crêpes, or crepes in anglais. These are thin, sweet pancakes that are rolled up and filled with different yummy types of food, like fruit or chocolate. Another tasty French dish that has been invented is called the soufflé. It is a puffy, delicate dish made of eggs and other ingredients. You may also have heard of croissants. Croissant is the French word for crescent. Croissants, buttery, flaky rolls, got their name because they are crescent-shaped like the moon. When you are out and about, take a look around you. The French came up with the original ideas for many of the vehicles that you will see. For example, more than 300 years ago in Paris, people came up with the basic idea for a bus. Also, about 200 years ago, a French doctor invented the ambulance. Both the bus and the ambulance back then were driven by horses. But also about 200 years ago, a Frenchman invented the first road vehicle to move under its own power. It was called the steam carriage. When he tried to drive it, it crashed into a wall and overturned. Still, some people think it was the world's first car. No one knows exactly who invented painting, but the oldest paintings in the world are found on the walls of a cave in France. They are more than 30,000 years old. More than 400 years ago, the French came up with the idea for ballet, a form of dance. Today, this popular dance is performed in theaters around the world. The French horn also was invented in France around the same time. Today, musicians all over the world use this marvelous instrument. Do you like to play cards? Well, if you do, you can thank the French people. About 500 years ago, they invented the kind of playing cards we use today. They are divided into 4 suits: spades, hearts, diamonds, and clubs. Around the same time, the French invented the sport of tennis. Back then, the game was only played by the King of France and his best friends. Have you ever played a joke or a funny prank on someone on April Fool's Day? Well, on April 1st, some people celebrate April Fool's Day by playing these silly practical jokes on each other. Many people believe this holiday began in France about 450 years ago. Another French holiday takes place on July 14th. It is called Bastille Day, and it celebrates a revolution that happened in France in 1789. On Bastille Day, like our July 4th, there are parades, speeches, and fireworks. I love fashion. Do you? Well, French people are famous for making and wearing beautiful fabrics and clothing. They came up with the idea of lace 700 years ago and high-heeled shoes more than 400 years ago. In those days, it was the men who wore these shoes. Today, usually it is women who wear the high heels. More than 300 years ago, French people came up with the idea of wearing neckties. They were called cravates. They also invented suits. Back then, men often wore suits to ride horses. Today, both men and women often wear suits when they go to work. I want to leave you with this image of a delicious French dessert. Do you know the difference between a mousse and a mousse? M-O-O-S-E and M-O-U-S-S-E. Both words are pronounced the same way, but boy do they have very different meanings. A moose, spelled M-O-O-S-E, is a big animal with horns. You definitely don't want to eat one of those. And mousse is a famous kind of French pudding. You will love eating chocolate mousse. Please try one day yourself and make it with the help of an adult. Bon appétit, les amis!